Today on Flashpoints, we feature the world-class saxophonist and anti-Zionist Gilad Atzmon, and also a brand new speech by Jeremy Scahill in Berkeley last Friday for KPFA. Amazing speech. You're not going to want to miss that. All this straight ahead on Flashpoints. Stay tuned. And maybe to introduce you, Gilad, maybe play a little music. I want to read something you wrote. And Gilad Atzmon writes to you, the listener. Once upon a time, and actually not that long ago, our cities conveyed some meanings. They were a unique reflection of ourselves. They were home to our thoughts, ideas, and yearnings. When we were young, our cities belonged to us. Their colors were our shades, their smells our scents, but more than anything else, their sounds were our songs. Each city had a melody, a resonance, a bell, an instrument, a voice. This album is a pursuit, and he's talking about his new album, which is absolutely beautiful, Songs of the Metropolis. This album is a pursuit of the sound of the city. It's an attempt to find that magic instant where melodic texture evokes familiar feelings. Gilad Atzmon, welcome back to Flashpoints. Thank you for allowing me to indulge myself. And
man, I'm so happy to be with you here again.
Well, it's good to have you with us. And you're one of the... we've talked about this a little bit. I'm from New York City, Lower East Side, many jazz clubs, very close, sitting very close in small quarters to great musicians.
Yeah.
And grew up loving it. And when I heard you play last time you were in town, I'm thinking, oh my God, how did I get so far away from jazz and the meaning of my life? So
yeah, I definitely don't get far away from jazz. I'm doing it every night. And
you're on a tour. You're here.
Yeah, I'm touring now already for 7 months, and this is my last 2 weeks in my kind of early 2013 tour.
Well, we're going to be together on. On Wednesday,
I think, yeah.
Wednesday, and it's not a saxophone concert on Wednesday, because you are somebody who's been thinking very seriously about Zionism.
Yeah.
Try and give us a thumbnail sketch of the...
Yeah, I'll try to make it very, very simple. I looked into the situation in Palestine, the conflict. I live in Britain for 20 years.
You were, or probably could always be, an Israeli citizen. I don't know if you're
I'm not an Israeli citizen.
You're not
anymore. No. And
but you were born in Israel.
I was born in Israel, and I served in the army. And it was actually I was very patriotic as a youngster. Okay. But it was around the time of the First Lebanon War when I realized that something is really wrong in the Israeli approach. It was around then when I realized that so many Palestinians are actually ethnically cleansed. The majority of Palestinians, I heard now that there are around 12 million Palestinian refugees around the world. Interestingly enough, 2 months ago, I visited Lebanon for the first time as a civilian, not as a soldier. And I was taken to see the bunkers of the resistance, and it was a fascinating for me. Back to my philosophy, because I write as a philosopher rather than as a political scientist. I realized at a certain stage that it's not just Zionism. Israel defines itself as the Jewish state. Its tanks are decorated with Jewish symbols, and we, for some reason, are too afraid to ask ourselves what it means. Who are the Jews? What is Jewishness? What is Judaism? What are the relationship between Jewishness Judaism and Zionism. What is the relationship between diaspora Jewry, American Jewry, and Israel? If Israel is the Jewish state, does it mean that American Jews are complicit in the crimes that are committed by Israel? What is the role of the Jewish left? Are they really standing against Zionism, or are they mainly engaged in stopping us from looking into this Jewish question? I wrote this book, The Wandering Jew. The book was endorsed by the most important humanists around, people like Professor John Mearsheimer and Professor Richard Falk, Professor James Petras, and the list is growing daily. However, some people really didn't like the book, but interestingly enough, until now, nobody stood up and said what is it that they don't like. Nobody managed to provide any evidence of me getting any facts wrong, or they didn't find any flaw in my arguments and so on. They just don't want me to talk about these issues, which means that this is what I have to do.
Well, exactly, and we want you to talk about those issues. We want you here to talk about those issues. It's always a pleasure to have you in the studio, and we're going to be together. Today's Tuesday, right? So that's tomorrow. What day are we in?
No, it's not tomorrow. It's the day after tomorrow.
I'm sorry. I'm like
tomorrow in Portland, actually.
Yes. Yeah, and I will be with you there.
Yeah.
Although the show is on in Portland there. Anyway, but we'll be together on Wednesday, and we'll be talking about these things, and hopefully we'll be able to do a little poetry and music
Inshallah.
Jam. I do think the complexities of your music make it easier, help to open up the doors to understanding the way you're trying to think and pose questions about what is a really difficult struggle.
You know what I think? I think that it's exactly the opposite. I think that my music is very simple. Sometimes I play a lot of notes very fast, but it sounds to me very simple. When I listen to Charlie Parker, it sounds very complicated, but when you dig into it, it's just beautiful and simple.
Right.
And my political thought is slightly unusual, but the ideas are shockingly simple. I was initially a mathematician, and a philosopher, and I believe that ideas should be transparent, and the dialectic that I present at the core of this discussion is extremely simple, and I would actually say self-evident. If Israel defines itself as a Jewish state, the first thing that you have to do is to ask what that means. And the fact that so many people trying to stop me from doing so only proves that this is the real issue, and this is where we have to concentrate.
Well, Gilad, last year I was a lot better at doing my job, and I managed to get Rabbi Michael Lerner to come on in and talk with you. I actually haven't had a chance to speak with him, but I tried very hard to bring people in because I really love the dialogue. I love the dialogue between yourself and Rabbi Lerner. I thought a lot of people learned a great deal about a lot of stuff. I have to say, I was hurt. I was hurt by some of the things that people who I love very much said to me, in terms of how I would jeopardize my reputation and the program if I had you on. And I want to ask you, as somebody who grew up in a sort of orthodox landscape with a rabbi who blessed matzah and wrote prayer, what's happening here? What is this?
I tell you what I think it is. I must admit that Israel, and I think that some of your listeners won't be happy to hear it, Israel is way more tolerant towards dissent than the so-called progressive anti-Zionist discourse. In this country, you have a bit of a problem, and it's a big shame because, as far as I understand your culture, and I think that what made this country into a great country, and I love this country a lot, is the First Amendment. Freedom of speech and freedom of thought is the essence of liberal thinking, and this is what made this country into a great country. This is why you have jazz, because those people that you went to see as a youngster in New York, they celebrate their symptoms freely, at least as musicians, probably not as a black man, citizen being oppressed and deprived of elementary needs. And it is shocking, it is not actually that shocking to find out that it is actually the left and the progressive are imposing so many measures that are there to silence the discussion. I'm now rereading George Orwell. I try to read everything this very clever man wrote. And it's very interesting that already in 1948, when he wrote 1984, he dedicated a lot of time, a lot of energy to the notion of newspeak, which is basically the idea behind political correctness. What is political correctness? Political correctness is the tyranny of self-censorship. It's a political stand that doesn't allow political opposition. Now, it comes to the world for very good reasons, for noble reasons, because we want to deal with racism and we want to combat oppression and stereotyping and so on and so on. But we end up interfering with the most sacred feature of humanity, which is, for me, expression. The free bond between the human subject and the universe and the reality. The ability to close our eyes and to say what we think. The fact that people tell me within the kind of the progressive network, Gilad, just don't talk about Jewish identity. Why can't you talk about Zionism? No. I have to think, and to think and to speak my mind and to present an argument. And I decided a few years ago that rather than looking for allies and forming leagues of activists, my only two allies are truth and integrity. And this is how I live. This is how I operate as a jazz musician. I will try to play as well as I can, to be in total agreement in myself, and this is the only thing that drives me as a philosopher.
Well, that's a very beautiful way to set the tone for Wednesday, when Gilad Atzmon, you're going to be in town. You're going to be talking about these ideas. I'm going to be there with you, proud to be there with you,
same here. I'm
talking
very
about
delighted.
ideas, and we're going to do a little jam, see if we can get some poetry in there with that beautiful
and
jazz.
I think that people who do not agree with me, and a few of them are Zionists, many of them are Jewish, so-called anti-Zionists, and I think that they should take it, they should be brave enough to stand up and to come over, and if they have a problem with my thought, they should be able to express it. This is what the First Amendment means. Rather than campaigning in a clandestine manner, if they have a problem, they should be able to stand up.
Yeah. Well, that's what I believe. And that's what the show is about. The show is really trying to explore ideas, particularly when it comes to this issue and this region, and to see where we continue to bubble. I always go back to that Pilger. He made the film in 1975, Palestine is the issue, and he made the same film, 25 years, Palestine is still the issue, or whatever the name of the film was. Anyway, it's an issue that there has to be different ways of thinking about it, or we're on and forever on. So how about you want to let me let people know that, again, you can find out more about this. This is going to be Uptown Body Shop. For those of you listening in the Bay Area, if you're in Utah, you won't be able to come. But if you're listening in the Bay Area, it's the Uptown Body Shop, Wednesday this week, 7 p.m., May 15th, at 19th Street. You can take the 19th Street BART. It's 401 26th Street, 401 26th Street, Oakland, 510-224-3518, 510-224-3518. Take the 19th Street BART. Gilad, I really appreciate you coming in and also
it's always a pleasure.
yanking out your saxophone for us. And what we're going to do now is we're going to ask Gilad to play us out of this, and after we listen to some wonderful playing, a minute or two of that, we're going to bring you, it's going to be Jeremy Scahill, introduced by a very favorite Friday producer, one of our best Friday producers, right? Sabrina Jacobs. Really proud of her. All right, Gilad, see you on Wednesday. Música para los pueblos.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hit it. Amazing speech. You're not going to want to miss that. All this straight ahead on Flashpoints. Stay tuned. And maybe to introduce you, Gilad, maybe play a little music. I want to read something you wrote. And Gilad Atzmon writes to you, the listener. Once upon a time, and actually not that long ago, our cities conveyed some meanings. They were a unique reflection of ourselves. They were home to our thoughts, ideas, and yearnings. When we were young, our cities belonged to us. Their colors were our shades, their smells our scents, but more than anything else, their sounds were our songs. Each city had a melody, a resonance, a bell, an instrument, a voice. This album is a pursuit, and he's talking about his new album, which is absolutely beautiful, Songs of the Metropolis. This album is a pursuit of the sound of the city. It's an attempt to Today on Flashpoints, we feature the world-class saxophonist and anti-Zionist Gilad Atzmon, and also a brand new speech by Jeremy Scahill in Berkeley last Friday for KPFA. Amazing. Find that magic instant where melodic texture evokes familiar feelings. Gilad Atzmon, welcome back to Flashpoints. Thank you for allowing me to indulge myself. And
man, I'm so happy to be with you here again.
Well, it's good to have you with us. And you're one of the... we've talked about this a little bit. I'm from New York City, Lower East Side, many jazz clubs, very close, sitting very close in small quarters to great musicians.
Yeah.
And grew up loving it. And when I heard you play last time you were in town, I'm thinking, oh my God, how did I get so far away from jazz and like the meaning of my life? So
yeah, I
back.
definitely don't get far away from jazz. I'm doing it every night. And
you're on a tour. You're here.
Yeah, I'm touring now already for 7 months, and this is my last 2 weeks in my kind of early 2013 tour.
Well.